Hey, thanks for joining us today on another episode of Inbound TV. Today we're going to talk about how to turn your website into your biggest digital asset. Luckily today we have our website operations manager with us at Mass Inbound, Dylan Lagama, who's going to help kind of walk through some of the different processes, some of the hurdles, and some of the advancements that you could be making to your website in order to squeeze as much as you can out of your website. So thanks for joining us today, Dylan.
Thank you, Ken.
What I want to start off with, and what you're going to see is in portions of this, I'm just going to hold a website up on screen for some of the portions of today's kind of podcast, because I want to illustrate for those who are listening to this and watching this to see the different parts of the website and also hear about how we talk about it. There's certain sections of the website that are really important and that are super undervalued. And I think that if you can see this, it could be very, very powerful for making a slight change and honestly getting the biggest result changes the fastest. So what I want to start off with, I'm just going to go to the top here. And this is just a website that we have that, we've made and we're going to use today as an example. But for the most part, one of the biggest things that I see and one of the things that I think the reason for this call resonated is just the misuse of the hero section.
Yeah.
It's the biggest fault in, I would say, 6 to 7 out of 10 websites.
Yeah.
What do you think are the most important pieces to the hero section? And to refer real quick, for those who don't know what a hero section is, it's that section when you go to the website before you even have to scroll down. So what you see right here on an iPad, where when you're on your phone, as soon as that website loads, before you start your scrolling, that's your hero section. But what do you think the most important things about a hero section are?
So for me, I think the most important is going to be the tagline, which is the text, the big text on the hero section. You want to really pull them in, kind of see what you're offering, what you have for the customers. And then underneath that is a short description, either breaking down the company or what they're offering. And then right after that is the call to action. Wherever you want to send the users to, that's what you want that button to go to.
Yeah.
And then there's all different ways you can showcase this. People have, as you can see here, text on the left. You can do it right in the center and then have graphics around it or have a background image of your products or what you're trying to offer. There's all different ways you can showcase it.
Now, what do you like better? Because I've seen both. I've seen videos in the hero. I've seen images. I've seen still shots or rotating images. So there's a multi-image approach.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best in that perspective?
It's all going to come down to whatever the service or product is. If it's an individual product, maybe showcasing a video of that product. In this case, as you can see, skin, it's time to love the skin you are in. You can see a woman holding her face, showcasing she has good skin. So it all depends on what your main offer is or goal.
Yeah, this one's really simplistic. It's very I would say it's very safe. It's very, but I do like how she looks like she's coming out of the fold here. She's popping out of the screen, which is pretty cool. But this one is, I would say, for the most part, a safer type of environment where the text is one color, the background is another. There's not any shading issues. That's another thing that I've seen so many problems with, especially with video, because it brings so many different color arrangements into play. And then you have black text or white text. And in some cases, it almost fades into the background and becomes hard to read. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. A lot of people sometimes try to do too much for the hero section. And for me, less is more. You don't want it too busy. You want to be straight to the point so you don't take users away. Because the first 5 seconds of a website is pretty much the most important part. So,
yeah, which is why they refer to it as the hero section.
Yeah.
Now, how about the header? In this header, we're seeing a button at the top right, which kind of draws my attention. What do you think about a header in this perspective? And there's kind of two here.
Yeah. The navigation is extremely important. The less clicks, the better for the user to get to where they want to be. So having a clear navigation and menu items is very important. There's many ways to do it. The traditional way is logo on the left, and then text either center to the left next to the logo or all the way to the right, and then the call to action button where you pretty much want to drive them to, same as the call to action on the hero section.
Yeah, so this one has a button. I'm a big fan of the button in the top right corner. You've
Yeah.
probably realized that, but I just think it sticks well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it stands out, and a lot of headers, for the most part, are white.
Yeah.
And I think when you add that color arrangement, like in this one has that like bluish purple kind of connect with a provider color button, it just pops.
Yeah.
So I really do like that. All right, anything else to add on the hero section?
No, not too much. I think that covers everything.
Yeah, I would say that the number one goal in your hero section is to drive the user to that point where you want them to convert. So if you're trying to push a product on a Shopify store, I think that, let's say it leads to a collections page where you have an assortment of Shopify products, essentially. Then you would drive to that collections page if it was like a special or a sale or maybe a seasonal collection. And your hero section resonates with that season, it then guides the user further one step towards that like end goal, whether it's a lead or a sale. So that's really what I always use it for, is like, how could we kind of direct the user to that point where there's less clicks than if they went to the header, then found the collections page, then found the product, then found the checkout, like turn 5 clicks into 2.
Yeah.
And if we could do that right with the header, then or right with the hero section, then that's ideal. From beyond there, is there anything specifically that you like to see under the header or like under the hero section or around the hero section?
So usually right under, I would go into whatever the main services or products are. So if you have a multiple services that you're showcasing, so you have 3 services, you can kind of break them down into different columns. That way you can kind of start pushing everyone to there, because that's pretty much what everyone's there for, are your services.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the most important information, I would have it directly underneath the hero section.
I agree completely to that. I think that in this section, we often see 50-50, the people that put the About Us section there and the people that put the services. I would say that the sites that have the services listed there are more successful in converting, just because when someone goes to your site, I would say 90% of the time they're either trying to make a purchase or to obtain information. And if the information is right there, right under the hero section, that leads them to the different services, like let's say it's a kitchen remodeling company, and it's like, here's our countertops, here's our floors, here's our cabinets, and you can then select into those services. That probably leads people directly through there further than the header, especially on mobile, because I think on mobile you have that hamburger menu where then it's like in fold. And I think that loses people. People don't go to the hero section.
I agree.
They don't go to the header as much. They go, hero section, then go right under.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think services is a huge kind of value add right under your hero section. It's like a big portion of what you could possibly offer there. And then, you have services here. And then what else on a homepage should you include?
So the homepage, of course, services and a short section of About Us. And another thing I want to point out is, for all this information, it's just like the key points. You don't want too much information, and if you can provide images or an icon of some sort to showcase what those are, that would help a lot. You definitely want to make sure you're breaking up the sections, either by having subtitles or different colors to just showcase that they're entering a different section of the site. And then based off of those two, then you can do, if you have some type of process for your website, say it's like a subscription and they have to follow like steps, so you can kind of showcase the steps that they would follow to get those products. And then after that, you can show testimonials, any of awards, blog posts, just any type of informational base that you want to showcase.
Yeah, those credibility building icons or those featured like as seen on or anything like that, those are always really good because they enhance the credibility of the site. Cool. Well, I think on a homepage structure, we kind of understand for the most part what needs to be on a homepage. I think what you said before, where it's like less is more, is really important, because that's really what you're looking for. How can we guide the user deeper into the site in an easier fashion from the homepage? And then how do we do that in a fashion where it's not like just throwing everything out and we don't write paragraphs on the site? People tend to not think about the way that users consume the content on the homepage. So I think we've hit that kind of the nail on the head in regards to what we could do on the homepage. One thing I also want to dive into today is like, what makes a good website a good website?
There's all different factors to it. It's always changing what's new, what's working, what's not. It's just more how clean it is and how responsive it is. You don't want anything breaking. You want everything to be symmetrical as well. You don't want multiple fonts. You want to stick with between like one font for your header, one font for your for the content, and then just making sure everything matches with the colors. You don't want to have too bright of colors, too light of colors. So there's a mixture of things that you can make it a better website, but for the most part, it's just sticking to the basics.
Now, you brought up a good point, like making it more current, and there's always changes with your website. I think one of the biggest issues that we see as sites live through their kind of life cycle is that they just don't get updated.
Yeah.
Someone builds a site, they leave the site, and then years pass, and that site never changes. But the economy changes, the industry changes, the services change. All of these changes happen within the person's business, but the website doesn't change. Now, why do you think that's such a hurdle for a lot of businesses today?
Because not many people are that tech savvy to understand how to maneuver the back end of a website depending on what CMS you're using. So sometimes they would have to either hire someone in-house to do those things, or they would have to try to do it themselves, and they run into issues. And it is very time consuming, so they just kind of get scared away and kind of leave it away.
Yeah, and then I would say 1 or 2 out of every 10 websites are frequently managed by the businesses themselves. Yeah, it's very uncommon. You know, one of the services that we offer at Mass Inbound is a service where we can actually do that for you. How much of an impact do you think it makes on a business where they don't have either the time or the skill to be able to go into the back end of the website and make those changes, but they could easily contact a team that supports them?
Yeah.
How much of an impact do you think that makes on a business?
It makes a lot, because they don't have to worry about their online presence too much. They can just outsource to us for any problems that they run into. And it also goes into a big thing, which is SEO for the site. When you update your site regularly, it helps a lot with the SEO and the rankings of your site. When you don't update your site and it just stays dull, then Google is not going to be too happy, and it can push your site down compared to people that are keep regularly updating their sites. So there's multiple things we can talk about for what the benefits are for a regular maintenance. A big thing is security. So when you don't update plugins or your themes or your CMS database, that's when hackers can get in and add malicious files, and then that can crash your site, and then that's when you have downtime.
How many times have we seen that happen?
Hundreds.
I would say that's like the biggest way for any type of issue, especially any type of like malware with a site, where they're getting in through a plugin that wasn't updated, and it's been not updated for a long time, and then it causes the site to basically get hacked, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And that can lead to server issues as well, which we've seen. But that's like the number one thing. So like that security itself is worth so much. If you have a lot of people going to your site, especially the site traffic that goes there, you want to make sure they're seeing like a legitimate business and everything is good, because when they hack it, you just lose all control.
Yeah, you just see error codes, a white screen. There's multiple things they can do.
We've seen ads from other companies coming in, we saw Google AdSense ads just like popping up everywhere, where they're just trying to put code on the site to run ads through Google AdSense. It's like crazy stuff. So yeah, I mean, really, really nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of security, what else?
And then it's just more like the optimizations of the site. So if you're not updating regularly and things are breaking, it won't optimize correctly for different screen sizes. So that can really run into a problem for the users. And then just staying up to date with your content. Are things changing? Your services, as Ken mentioned. You just want to always stay on top of everything. And it also could be very cost saving in the long run too, because if you run into big issues, it can take some time and money to fix those issues.
Yeah, that's a good point that I haven't thought about. But like if you just stay on top with small incremental changes and you just make sure that the management of that site is there and it's like nothing severe is happening, it is probably more cost efficient to worry about those small incremental changes from month to month or week to week than it is to literally fix a white screen on a site. And then also not even on top of that, the time. Like
Yeah.
if something happens and everything is up to date, it's probably minor and it can be fixed pretty quickly. But if you haven't accessed your server in years, or you haven't accessed your domain or your DNS records in years, and then all of a sudden something happens, like we've had problems where people don't even know where the Google credentials or the GoDaddy credentials or DNS records reside.
Yeah.
And then that could take weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like now you have a site that's sitting there and you don't know what happens.
Yeah.
It's almost like not having the keys to your home where it's like, well, what do? You know, yeah, you're in a little bit of a tricky situation. Obviously in a home, you can break through it, but in a website, in this case scenario, like you're kind of in a tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really have much capability of accessing the site.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anything else on top of that?
Just another thing, just kind of build on top of that. And once you do, say, get logged into the back end, you don't know where the issue is. Finding out where the issue can be half of the problem. So having a team that understands the back end and knows where everything is and how to figure out the problems is definitely very beneficial.
Yeah, look, not everyone needs to be a coder. But the other day we had an issue where there was a white screen on a site, and you were able to go in and you can see through the PHP code exactly where that issue was, what was happening, and you were able to fix that in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like super fast. Mm-hmm. But if someone had that issue that didn't understand how to, one, access the PHP code, and then two, even understand where an issue could be found, I mean, you're looking at then having to find someone who can do that, contacting them, talking to them about it. Like,
Yeah.
Again, time, weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It just so if you care about your site having, a priority and being up and running frequently with no issues, and then if an issue does occur, having that issue fixed in as quick of a timeline as possible, then like the management side of a website is super important. And I think it's really easy to kind of put that on the wayside, but it's like one of those things like, it's funny because like my wife and I have the tire package on a vehicle. You don't use that tire package until something happens to the tire. But when something happens to the tire, you are so thankful for that tire package.
Yeah.
Same thing as a website kind of management plan. Although you do get service on top of that, which is awesome. When someone does have like a website management plan, what is typically the service requests? What do they look like, or what is the most common service requests that come in?
So for the management side, it's just going to be updates. It's going to be updating plugins, themes, and the database. Those are the main things that run into issues. And some people think it's just as simple as just click the update button and you're good to go. But sometimes those updates can create broken links, and they don't understand that. So ways to fix that is just I would set up it's called a staging site, which is pretty much a copy of the site. I'll do the updates to see if anything happens, if any issues arise, and then if not, then I can do the updates.
Super important for big sites. If you have a big site with a lot of traffic going to it, we have seen what those issues cause. So those staging sites are literally a preliminary to say, like, if I make this update, does it crash my site? Or does any site issue happen? Because that does happen. And then you could fix that before you actually execute something that goes live. Mm-hmm. And then it doesn't affect your traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's super brilliant to do that because it could save any site that has a lot of visibility. It can save any type of headaches.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you can run into a lot of problems. Any other requests or frequent things that you see in regards to like requests from website management side?
Not too much the management. Then it's just updating content and adding new information that they might have. Another thing that people kind of don't look at are backups for the site. You want to always do regular backups just in case anything happens, so you can always revert back to the best performance of the site, and then you can work on those problems as well.
Yeah, and you do that on the server level, right?
Yeah.
So in your server, you're looking at backing that up on a daily basis?
You could do daily. You have hours set on daily, but you can do daily, weekly, monthly. But always just have at least one that's always going to be performing no matter what.
Yeah, because if it crashes, goes down, then you just revert back to the recent version on the backup, which makes a lot of sense. But I think that's another thing that goes missed. A lot of companies don't do that. The question I had in regards to management, how is management of a site different if it's like a WordPress site opposed to a Shopify site? Is there a difference in what can be managed there, or how does that usually look?
Yeah, there definitely is, where WordPress sites are more content-based and based off services, where Shopify is going to be the products. So you're going to be always on top of the products, collections, anything like that, email marketing for the products. So there's definitely a lot more moving parts within a Shopify that you have to manage than a WordPress, but they're both very important.
Got it. And then products, they come with their own different types of unique elements and categories and collections pages and all that. Typically, those are more frequent updates on a Shopify site, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I mean, I think there's a lot that goes into the management of a website. The one thing that we didn't bring up is like how it really correlates with the business's overall goal. I think one of the biggest things for me that I really like in regards to like management or the management side of any type of website is that you could help your website stay in alignment with all of your marketing practices. A common issue that I see is that advertising is running. Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, Google ads, TV, radio, streaming, all this stuff. But then where you drive more visibility to your business and the traffic increases on your site, you don't really have any way for them to correlate the advertising with and the program that you're marketing with your site. For instance, like if you have an offer where it's like you're giving $500 off an XYZ, or you have 30% off of a service for a month, or for the first time customers, that should be on your site. And if that does go on your site, you're going to see increased conversions because there's a parallel between people seeing the offer, Googling you, doing their due diligence, and then finding the site.
Yeah.
And then now they'll see the same synergy. And with that, that always changes. Like month after month, marketing campaigns change. How frequently, if you out of 10 sites, how frequently do you see that the site is in alignment with the marketing?
It varies. I'd say 50-50. I mean, depends how much they're on top of it, but it is very important to always update that, especially for your hero section. Kind of going back to that part. If you don't update your hero section with whatever the newest deals are that you're offering for that month, then it could turn away users because they don't know exactly where to go.
Yeah. And then on top of that, taking advertising a step further, you and the team make sure that all the tracking codes are placed on the site. Like what type of tracking codes are you putting on sites to make sure that advertising is effective?
Yeah, so there's Facebook Pixels, there's Google Analytics, there's Google Search Console, Google Tag Manager, just so that everything is tracking, staying together, so you can see where everyone's going. And
then retargeting visitors, site visitors as well.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, now there's streaming pixels and things like that are coming out. So, even with all of the tracking issues that could potentially happen, you and the team make sure that the site has those tracking pixels, that it's what we like to call in the marketing industry that those pixels are firing correctly, meaning that if someone goes to the site, the pixel is effectively picking up the traffic and making sure that it acknowledges the site visitor and then feeds that data back to the advertising platform like Google or Facebook, or in many cases TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, all of these different places, so that we get a good retargeting ad. And that is something that I've seen where like people have issues with that, right? Because if they don't have a web team to support them, they don't know how to add those. It's a tricky thing, right? Adding it to the theme file, or going to a theme editor and adding it to the global header or the body of code is really confusing.
Yeah, if you don't understand code, it can get pretty confusing on knowing where to put certain stuff. So I understand that.
And then it can break something.
Yeah.
We've seen that too. Mm-hmm. Or literally I've seen where it got added once I've seen this actually many times, where I've seen that it wasn't properly placed in the actual header codes between the global header, and it was placed in the header. So when you literally open up the site, like literally the code text is just at the top of the site. I've seen that happen too, which again, it's an honest mistake. It's difficult if you don't know what a global header is, and that probably took an hour just to figure out where to put that, and it was still just code sitting on the top of a site in the initial header, which is it's a funny thing.
Yeah.
But not only does frequent updates on your site just make sure that user experience is better, it helps ensure that Google performance is better and SEO is kind of to par. And it also helps ensure that you're getting the most out of your website and you're really creating the biggest asset that you can for your business, because we know that the world is becoming increasingly more digital from year to year. It's unlikely that someone walks into your store and doesn't go on your website before they walk into your store, or doesn't, go to your website before they call you or submit their information. So when someone goes to your website, it needs to be the best first impression that it could possibly be. And you kind of don't have a lot of time, like 5 seconds to 10 seconds. Someone's going to make a decision like that and say, this is a credible business or it's not.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would add in regards to just websites that you would want to provide any insight or tips on?
There's just one other thing. When you mentioned time, you also want to have good site speed. So when you don't update your site, it can definitely start to get a little bit slower of a site speed, and you don't want people to go on your site and it takes forever for everything to load. Then you'll lose the users. So site speed's very important for your sites.
Yeah, and after too long, Google will actually just time it out.
Yeah.
Or Safari too. They'll just time it out. If the code or the website is just not running properly and it's really bad, that's kind of like the worst extent. It'll like literally time out and just say can't be reached.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that potential too, which that's worst case scenario, but still I've seen it.
Yep.
We've worked on, I feel like years ago I said hundreds. At this point, it feels like thousands of websites that we've worked in or worked on or built or designed or developed. So we've seen I like to say almost everything. We've seen a real lot, more than the average by far. Cool. Any last minute thoughts?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
Awesome.
Nothing on my end.
Yeah, I think that as a whole, I think it's really important to continue to increasingly add value to your website, build it like you're building your business, and continue to add links and value and blog posts and YouTube content and create synergy, because at the end of the day, if someone just Googles your business, they're likely going to find your website. And if they find a website that doesn't align with your business because it's just not good performer, then it could lead to a fault where you have a lack of performance or no performance of generating leads or sales. So your website is super important, especially if it's a Shopify store and that's the entire business.
Yeah.
So online sales only increase the importance of your website performance. Mm-hmm. So awesome. Well, if you have any questions or thoughts that come to mind when you're looking at your website, feel free to throw it in the comments or reach out to us at Mass Inbound. We're always around to answer questions. Feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email, shoot us a DM, and we'd love to answer your questions. We get tons of questions all the time from different companies that do a very wide variety of different things. So don't feel afraid to reach out to us. But if you have any questions, shoot us a message. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on Inbound TV.